All right, hey guys, and welcome back at the second installment of me taking a look at the 2020 Masters of the Universe Origins line Wave 1, and this time we're taking a look at everyone's favorite villain, Skeletor, fools! So let's see how well they did the new 2020 Origin Skeletor. We'll compare him, of course, to the vintage Skeletor. And I've also got a special surprise that I found in store recently that I didn't expect to have for this. I have a South American and Spanish version of the Origin Skeletor, which we'll take a look at that packaging and go over some of the differences as well. So first off, let's take a look at the original Skeletor here we have for the Origins line. We'll move our Spanish variant off to the side for just a second. And as you can see, the packaging looks like what we would come to expect from the Origins He-Man and the other figures in the Origin line. We have the great blue background up at the top, Masters of the Universe, Skeletor, Evil Lord of Destruction. We have the yellow sunburst, of course, over in the top corner, modern posing, retro play, which is what this whole line is about. So if you guys don't know, they're much more articulated figures than usual, but that also means that unfortunately you do give up the power punch with all these figures, which I really hate, and I wish there was a way they could work into it, but what are you going to do? So you do have the nice bursting rocks. You have the Mattel logo down in the bottom corner. You have a nice blister with the center little bubbles. That way it keeps him, from bouncing around inside of the card there. The new for 20. You have the same mini comic that you would have gotten with any of the ones in the Wave 1, which is the Masters of the Universe Beast Barrage comic. Usually they only put out one per wave. And then, of course, you get all your different accessories, the Havoc Staff, the other half of the Power Sword that'll be in there as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the back. And then we got some great art going on up top here. We have Skeletor. Although to my vantage point, it looks like he's about to, fall in to, lava. I know he's at Snake Mountain, and it looks like, he's conjuring up evil spells or whatever. Like, he's supposed to be, badass, but it just looks like he's like, yeah, I'm losing my balance. It looks like he's going to totally just fall into some lava. And then up top here, you guys can't see it, but it says, the nefarious Overlord Skeletor wants to control the power within Castle Grayskull. And, well, duh. I mean, he's kind of been wanting to do that since, 1982, so obviously. And we have the includes comic book Starburst. And then it shows where there would have been the power features here. It just shows how you fit the Havoc Staff into the hand and twist into powerful battle positions. And this is the six-pack, of course, with the Wave 1. We have He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Skeletor, Evil Lyn, and Beastman all featured on the back. And I gotta say, how do you not love this new artwork that they're doing on all of the, the cards and figures and everything? Just absolutely looks great. So now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the South American version. All right, so this is the South American version of the Origin Skeletor. And there's really, there is a lot of things different, but there's not as many as you would think. So, of course, number one, right off the bat, you can see Skeletor, but it's in, of course, in Spanish, it's Esqueleto. So, it's Esqueleto, fools. I just imagine hearing that, in a cartoon. It's like, I don't know, it's like he's got another nickname or something. It's pretty funny. But it's cool to see that up there. And the same thing in the Sunburst. We have, in Spanish, now it just says, Renovado, Photo Retro. So, retro posing, stuff like that. And then the main difference that we have in the packaging is up on the top, instead of just saying the Masters of the Universe on the whole line that you see in the South American variants, it says He-Man in the Masters of the Universe, and the new for 20 logo is gone. Look at how much better this card looks. I mean, I could have walked into a vintage toy shop and without knowing, of course, you can see the armor right off the bat and the face. It tells you it's obviously not a vintage figure, but the card, I mean, that could have possibly fooled me. This is such a better design. I would really hope moving forward that they would continue with that. I just love the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe you know, there's no extra garbage on here saying it's 2021 or whatever. 'Cause I think that really devalues the figures. Who cares that you want to know what the year of the figure is? I just want a nice, clean looking figure. And I know that people are worried, like, oh, well, they're doing that so that way people don't try to think it's vintage. Like, who would think it's vintage? Like, obviously it's different jointed. So I think that they should go with that same art style on the front because they're doing a great job on the back and it looks great. One of the major differences that you'll notice, or well, you actually wouldn't notice, but when you in the pack in with this Spanish variant of Skeletor is that it has the same mini comic, but there is nothing. Actually, you can see from here, because I didn't open it up, I don't want to take it out of the package, but there's no logo. See, it's completely blank up there, and then I'll even see if we can get a quick look at it right here, like down on the bottom, you can kind of see, like there's no words, and that's because the entire mini comic on the inside is completely blank. It's the same mini comic, but it's just all pictures. So that's another big difference. That you also see in the UK variants and in the South American releases. And then we'll take a look at the back. And, you know, it's basically the same thing, except everything's in Spanish. So, you know, just a really neat find. I thought this was really fun, and it's a cool variant to add to my Origins lines. I've never really had any other Spanish variants. I don't think vintage or otherwise in my collection so far. So, very cool. So now let's go ahead and we'll get our figure opened up and we'll take a look and we'll see what you get inside. All right, so we've got our Skeletor out of the blister card and unboxed here. So let's check out everything that you get with the Origins Skeletor. Of course, we have the figure. You got his Havoc Staff here with his 2 accessories that he comes with. This is really nice. The plastic is really well molded and it really doesn't feel like it's going to bend. And if it does, it also kind of feels like it's gonna, you know, just go back into shape. Like so many of the older vintage ones were warped beyond belief. And this has a lot of nice detail in the ram's head. I think that looks really good. And the staff, like this is done so well. Like why didn't they do He-Man's Battle Axe as well as they did Skeletor's Havoc Staff? This looks great. This is a really nicely crafted accessory. And then of course we have the other half of the power sword here, which as you know will connect to either Prince Adam or to He-Man's power sword to unlock Castle Grayskull. Looks good. Also made of really nice plastic, really well done. And then of course, let's take a look at Senor Esqueleto, Mr. Skeletor himself. And now, right off the bat, one of the major concerns, complaints, what have you, you have from a lot of people is like, what is up with that face? Same thing with He-Man. You know, the face looks so different. And I guess it's a little odd. The eyes are extremely red and large, although I don't mind that. I think that looks good. And then they're like, oh, well, his mouth is open and he's laughing. And I just don't see the problem with this. Like, I love the vintage figures, but you know what? One of the major things I remember about watching the cartoons is all of Skeletor's goofy facial expressions. And I think that's what Mattel was going for here. I don't see the problem. Like, oh no, he's you know, his mouth is open and he's laughing. It's like, oh, well, gee, it's not like Skeletor ever laughed at all, you know. It's like, oh wait, no, he totally did that. All the time. Always laughing at Merman and Beastman and Trapjaw and He-Man and King Randor. Like, so why is it abnormal that his mouth is open? Like, that's totally how I imagine him. Like, that's a great reimagining of the original figure, in my opinion. He still looks very evil. And he just looks like, he's like, ha ha ha, Randor, if you want your palace back. Like, that's totally the Skeletor that we all know and love. Apparently not everyone, because they re-released the vintage head with the battle armor Skeletor, but I think he looks great. I don't have a problem with it at all. As you guys know, with the articulation, there's many different points of articulation and poses you can put him into. So first we have the head, which is on a ball joint. And now these are removable. I don't like taking them off just because it puts stress on the joints, but like the arms, the hands, you can remove them. We have his armor here, which is a nice flexible purple rubber. It's also in a great color. Looks great. You know, really good detail with the bat symbol and the skull and crossbones in the center of the chest. The arms move up, rotate around, and you can also bend at the elbow here. And the hands have a nice 360-degree motion. The waist can be rotated all the way around. There you see the back straps on the back of the armor. And there we have the lower half of the loincloth there. You know, his black pants there, for lack of a better term. We got his purple boots, which turn all the way around. They are also removable, and then they also pivot at the ankle. And again, like I said, with a lot of these figures, the ankles is one of the problems when you go to pose these guys. And Skeletor's notorious at this. He's always falling over. Him and Beastman in my collection, they just do not want to stand for whatever reason. I think he just likes frustrating me. But anyway, let's go and give him some of his accessories. Oh, and another thing that I forgot to show too, of course, with the vintage, you can always take and tuck the power sword in the back of the harness there. So let's give him the power sword. There we are. So there's the power sword there. Holds it a little awkwardly, I gotta say. But looks good. See, already the ankles are giving me problems. There we go. And then, of course, the Havoc Staff. For Skeletor to do what else? Wreak havoc. I mean, that would be why it's called the Havoc Staff. So how great does this guy look? I think this is a really great reimagining of the classic figure. There's so many different fun ways that, you know, that you can pose him with, you know, with other figures, you know, like, He-Man, you wouldn't hit me. And, like, you know, you can have him, like, laughing and cackling and like, ha 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 ha, I've got you now. And there's just so much fun stuff that you could do with this. And this Skeletor, just in my opinion, looks absolutely great. So now that we've taken a look at the Origins Skeletor, let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison with the vintage Skeletor. Alright, so here we have the my vintage 1981 Skeletor, and of course we have the Origins Skeletor. So we can see a lot of big differences and a lot of similarities with the figures. Number one, color. This is obviously faded over the years, but I think it's still a true representation of the blue that they're going for there. It's just a little more brighter, a little more eye-catching. Nothing wrong with that. The power swords look good. It's hard to say. I think I do like the vintage ones better. Sorry, this guy's seen some wear over the years, and I can't remove his sword because I just have it like lightly glued in there with some Elmer's glue, so he holds it because it's missing the strap. And of course his leg bands are really worn out, but that way you can kind of get a look at the vintage power sword. And then we can kind of see the new one there. And there's really not much difference between the Origins and the vintage one, except they cut the connectors on the sides of the sword and then made it a little more flourishy at the top, which I don't think looks bad at all. Now he's unfortunately missing his lower armor. I think the regular armor looks fine. It looks pretty much identical, you know, except that's rubbery, so it'll last longer and won't break as much. Of course, the main thing that we want to focus on here is the head and the face. And sorry, but I don't notice a big difference. I really don't. I mean, his eyes are red. Of course, they're not as red as they are in the Origins. Yeah, that's a little bit of a difference, but the green around the side of the face, it still looks the same to me. The hood that he's wearing around his head still looks the same. He does look a little more evil in the vintage one, but with the mouth, I mean, what's the big deal? If you close the mouth, it looks like the same Skeletor. I really do not see a problem. This is just him with his mouth open. And aside from the eye sockets. But I think that's kind of cool because this makes it look a little more Filmation-y. So I really do not see a problem. As far as the rest of the figure with the with the feet and everything, that looks pretty much spot on. Let's take a look side by side at the Havoc Staffs here. Hopefully I don't knock these fellas over. All right, old timer, I'll give this right back to you. And as you can see, this is a pretty faithful representation. It is about maybe 1/4 of an inch larger, and the color is definitely a different shade, but it's an identical mold for the most part. I mean, this is really great. This piece here is a little bit wider than that piece, and the head may be slightly smaller. Hard to really tell. But overall, I mean, this is a great and faithful reproduction of a wonderful vintage accessory. So we'll give that back to our fellow boneheads here. There you are, sir. Oh no! I knew that was going to happen sooner or later. Honestly, he stands better than most of my figures for having worn out bands. But yeah, I don't think there's that many differences with the figures. I don't know if he can still do. Oh, he still does do his power punch. It's been so long since I've tried to use him with such an old figure. So this is what you're missing if you don't know with the vintage ones. They have like a spring, and then bam, they do the power punch. So I guess you can't do that with the way you're posing the new ones, but it would be really nice if there was a way to work that in. I think that would be really cool. All right, sir, let's get you upright again. All right, well, guys, that is going to do it for my look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Wave 1 Skeletor. Overall, I think it's a great figure. I definitely recommend picking it up. I mean, even if you're a die-hard vintage fan like myself, I don't think there's that much difference with it, with the vintage figure, or at least enough that, it should disparage people from picking this up. Especially, one thing I do have to agree with people on, if you're a MOTU fan, the only way that we get new figures and that things keep moving forward is if people support and purchase the new line. If they don't, I don't want to see the MOTU Origins, die off after Wave 3 or Wave 4, because we're seeing so many cool new figures. Clamp Champ is due to come out this year. There's a new Gray Skull coming out this year. There's a new Land Shark. So, don't be so picky about the figures. I mean, of course, unless they do something that's like an abomination to them. But, so far from what I've seen with the new He-Man, with the new Skeletor, there's a few differences here or there, but overall, I think they look great. So anyway, guys, thanks for taking a look with me at this really awesome Masters of the Universe Origins Wave 1 Skeletor today, and I'll see you back here next time for another Origins review. Take care. Hey guys, if you liked the video that you just watched, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and you can follow me at Facebook at King of Retro or Twitter at #8ByteBrian. See you next time.